Might get started, and I can see people still joining, but let's get started. As I say, welcome. My name's Julian Stevenson. I'm the Product and Operations Director here at RMIT Online. Thank you for giving us your time to come to this information session around our future skills short courses. We've got three people speaking today and plenty of time for questions and answers. First of all, I would just like to acknowledge the people of the Wurrung and Boon Wurrung language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nations, whose unceded lands we conduct the business of RMIT University here in Melbourne. I respectfully acknowledge the ancestors past and present, and elders past and present. I'd also like to acknowledge the custodians and their ancestors of the lands and waters across Australia, from wherever you're joining, from where we conduct our business as a group that's gathering here today. So as I mentioned, we're here to talk about future skills, RMIT Online's online short courses. First of all, we're going to hear from Matt Henwood, who's a product manager here at RMIT Online. We're then very fortunate to have Jelvi join us, who not only has studied through some of our online short courses, but is also an industry mentor on those courses. And you'll hear a little bit more about what it is to be an industry mentor and how that fits into the learning experience, both from Matt and from Jelvi. And then we'll also hear from Amanda, who's we're very pleased who's given us her time from Deloitte, who works with one of our major industry partners that we develop some of our courses with. And we'll talk a little bit more about, well, probably quite a lot about how industry is so important to the experience across our courses as we go as well. So that's the kind of format. Before I just hand over to Matt, please do add your questions into the chat. We will answer some as we go. If they kind of fit the section we're talking to, we may leave some questions to the end. We'll obviously answer some of them in the chat, but we do want this to be a session where you get your questions answered as much as us sort of talking to you with information and around the experience and around the products. So please pop your questions into the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them all as we go, and then we'll have a session at the end around Q&A. So first of all, I will hand over to Matt Henwood, the Senior Product Manager for Future Skills here at RMIT Online. Matt is the expert across all of these courses and these products. He's the person that's responsible for managing all of the courses that sit within the Future Skills portfolio. He's going to talk to you a little bit about what these courses are, some of the experiences within them, how they work, and talk to you hopefully answer many of your questions around what you can expect to get from learning in these courses. So, Matt, handing over to you first of all.
Thanks, Jules. Yeah, thanks, Jules. Yeah, I'm Matt. I'm a product manager at RMIT Online. So, as Jules was saying, it's my role to look after the kinds of courses that we're offering and also the kinds of skills that we're trying to teach within those courses, which is a pretty cool job. Today, I'm going to talk about sort of why we started Future Skills, a little bit about how an individual Future Skills course actually works, and then talk about sort of how it's going, who does the courses, and what it's like. So RMIT Online started back in 2017, 2018 with a view to sort of helping learners, or helping a community of lifelong learners successfully navigate the world of work. So when we were thinking about what that means, we were very aware of the changing ways that people access education, the changing ways that people sort of want to build their skills, and the changing ways that people are sort of living and working and learning all at the same time. And so within that, we sort of came up with the idea of a group of micro-credentials that we were going to call Future Skills. Important to sort of talk about the idea that there's lots of different versions of micro-credentials around lots of different places. So pretty much anything that isn't quite an accredited piece of learning can be classified as a micro-credential. So we wanted to talk about the way that Future Skills works and what it is as a micro-credential to RMIT Online. So Future Skills go for 6 to 8 weeks. They've got a facilitator, they've got a mentor, as Jelvi is going to speak to, and they've got a project-based assessment. We're really focused on making sure people can apply the learning that they get throughout a Future Skills course, and we sort of assess that through a project-based assessment that gets feedback from the mentor on the course. We also wanted to think about the kinds of skills that people are trying to grow. Obviously, the digital transformation, a very big and important thing that we're continuing to see is big and important in terms of both the ways that people need to build their skills, but also when we're thinking about the way they're doing it digitally, it's also the kinds of platforms that they're learning on and the way that they're accessing their education that way too. So a portfolio of courses that focuses on data skills, on digital marketing, on human-centered design, and increasingly on sustainability and business management, business acumen. We also knew that it was really important to us that industry featured throughout the courses. So that's in terms of the design and development of the courses. So we go out and we speak to our industry partners to understand the kinds of skills that they want to see their people get, and also the way that they apply those skills. We engage subject matter experts so that they can work with us while we're going out and building the courses, so that they're telling us the exact kinds of things people are doing while they're at work, but also they're working directly with our learning designers to provide case studies, to provide different resources to the different things that people are working on. And then within the actual course experience, as we're going to talk a little bit more about today, their industry mentors are sort of featured throughout by providing feedback on the assessments that people are doing, and also as an access point through Slack to talk to and ask questions of. Amanda, who's also on the call today, is featured throughout a couple of our courses as a person in the media. So she's talking about what it's like to work on these skills and do it in real life as well. So I'm going to talk for a couple of minutes now about what the actual experience of going through a future skills course is. So as a learner, when you start your future skills course, it's 6 weeks, and the skills throughout a future skills course are broken up into modules that you experience over the course of a week. So when we say a module, it means you log into your sort of learning system, which we call Canvas. You can complete your activities at any time that suits you. And we sort of recommend that you're supposed to do sort of one module a week. And what those activities are is you can watch some media that is featured from an industry person. You do an activity, you read different resources about what the skill that you're learning is. And also there is a webinar where you can speak directly to your industry mentor. So you log into a webinar, you ask your questions, you talk about what the assessment might be at the end of the course, you talk about the different activities that you're working on, and you ask for their insights on how to best apply the skills moving forward. You have access to Slack. So throughout the experience of your 6 weeks, you'll be able to reach out to your mentor or to other peers that are doing the course via Slack, which, if you're not familiar with Slack, it's an instant messaging platform similar to Teams. And you'll be able to talk, you'll be able to ask questions, you'll be able to share what your progress is, and people can provide feedback that way. Should also mention that you can organize a one-to-one session with your mentor at any point during the 6-week experience on a future skills course. When I did my future skills course, I sort of left it towards the end of the course so that I'd already done a draft of my assessment. So I could ask about what I would be, what I could do better, or how I could make sure that I met the actual brief of the assessment. And I say all of that to also mention that all of these things can be done asynchronously. So even though we've sort of structured it so that you go through with one module in each week, you can, if you can't get to certain things in 1 week, you can do your activities at another time. You can always go back and watch the webinars that you might have missed or you might not have been able to join. And as we said, you can sort of reach out to a mentor via Slack to organize a time that you can have a one-on-one that's going to suit you as well. So it's a 6-week period, and that 6 weeks allows us to ensure that we can have a mentor available for you to provide feedback on all the things that you're working on. But it also means that you can complete the activities and the learning asynchronously, and you can do it in your own time. The next thing that I want to talk about is kind of who's doing the courses. So more and more we kind of find the people that we are supporting are the ones that are looking to fill what they sort of see as a gap, either in their own experience or a gap in kind of the skills that they need to be working on, or an opportunity to kind of grow their skills to kind of an adjacent role or something that they might be looking at a little bit separately. So a really good opportunity for people who may be really gun analysts to build their project management skills. Is the kind of thing that we're sort of finding, as well as the kinds of people that might be sort of looking to get a little taste of a different kind of a course that they might be able to then sort of build on and move into further learning, or an opportunity to move into a new role. The We do deliver these courses not just for individuals that can sort of make a choice to kind of do the learning at different sort of stages. So if you're an individual looking to purchase, you can purchase one of a few different intakes that we have on our website. So you'll be able to buy at a time that suits you. There's sort of up to 30 courses now that we have running pretty regularly. But also if there's a group, so we often find that different organizations might look to put through a group of sort of 20 to 30 people through one of these courses, which really is valuable for establishing a baseline across all of those learners that they're doing. And so we can run those at different times as well. It's a really good way to build sort of a standard set of skills across the organization, but also to make sure that you've got some understanding and clarity around the kind of skills that those people are learning too. We should mention as well, all of these courses are kind of backed by an RMIT credential. So at the end of the course, once you submit your final assessment, once you get your feedback, and once you find that you've passed and done everything correctly, then you will receive an RMIT credential, which means that you can sort of trust in the kind of rigor associated with the assessment that you will have gone through, and you can trust in the kind of way that we've built the courses to ensure that people can go and apply the learning else. Otherwise, you share that credential as well, so you can put it on your LinkedIn, you can put it on part of your CV, and people and potential employers can see that you've gone through a piece of learning that is supported by a university and can and has demonstrated that you can apply the learning that you've gone through there. Along with those RMIT credentials, we should also say that we have a group of our courses also can be taken in combination to provide you with credit into future learning. So we've got about 10 or so combinations of courses that mean that if you do those 2 courses, you might be able to in future go through a graduate certificate and receive credit for some of that learning. At RMIT Online, I've probably mentioned this already, but we've now got sort of 30 courses that are running regularly, so you'll be able to access them and sort of purchase them at a time that suits you. There's over 100 mentors, I think, that are available to support across those 30 different courses. And we've now had something like 25,000 students go through RMIT Online since we started 5 or so years ago. So it seems to be going pretty well, and we seem to have grown into a pretty large and quite strong sort of group of quite good portfolio of courses. I think I'm starting to get to the end of the things, but I feel like I might have missed some stuff, Jules.
No, that's great. Thanks, Matt. There's a couple of questions come through, and I've got one as well. But I'll sort of extend on what the first question there around how many hours a week, and probably extend it by saying, is it a kind of consistent number of hours each week, and what's that kind of balance of workload, study load rather, across
It's a really good question. It's a really good question. We try to keep a consistent balance across each of those weeks. So we recommend sort of 6 to 8 hours of learning that takes place across those weeks. But I would say that the thing that's important when it comes to getting the credential at the end of it is how you apply the learning through the assessment. So if you do find that week to week you're not able to commit those sort of 6 to 8 weeks, you can go and do those activities at a different time that does suit you. The webinars are always going to be available to go back and rewatch again later if that is more suitable to you as well. So we would recommend getting through those 6 to 8 hours of learning activities. Also within that is going to the webinar as well. But if 6 weeks is enough time for things to go wrong, but it's also enough time to kind of make up for those sorts of things as well. So if you need to go back and spend a bit of extra time in another week to do that, then that's good. Or if you want to catch up with your mentor and make sure that the things you're focused on are the things that you really need to focus on for your assessment, then that's a sensible way to do it as well.
Yeah, excellent. And next question, again, I'll sort of extend on it a little bit. It asks about sort of, is there group work involved in the courses? And then I'll probably extend that by asking, I can't remember if you touched on it, in terms of the assessment, what is that assessment? How do we assess? Like, are you assessed all the way through? Is there checkpoints, or and is it group work?
Yeah, good question, good question. So we require each of the individuals to kind of submit their own work. So particularly if you're sort of like going through it as part of your organization, then there's a bit of value in talking to your peers about the problem that you're working on and being able to share that problem and the way that you might approach it. But every individual future skills learner needs to submit their own work and needs to be able to demonstrate that their own application of the learning that they've gone through. And the way that works is often it's like a piece of written work, like a PowerPoint presentation that you then support with a video where you're presenting and explaining what you've done in your written work. The way that you go about submitting them, we recommend a couple of checkpoints during the course. So you can submit 2 milestones during the course, which typically kind of, ladder up into what your assessment is going to be. So throughout the time that you're doing the course, you're kind of contributing to what your assessment is going to be later. You submit those milestones to your mentor and they provide written feedback on those as well. So again, it makes a lot of sense to submit those milestones, get the written feedback, and then go and speak to your mentor directly about how to best be prepared to deliver the assessment.
Awesome. Good stuff. Could go with a couple more before we're going well on time. Before I hand over to Jelby. The scheduling of the courses, and again, probably a couple of questions in here. I'll throw at you at the sort of same time. I think some of the courses started this week. How often do they run? And you mentioned they were 6-week courses. Can you take a break? Can you kind of stop and start? How does that all work around the scheduling of the course?
Yeah, good question. Good question. So they run some of the more popular courses will run sort of each month, and most courses will run at least sort of once a quarter. Yes, you're correct. They sort of go for 6 weeks. The most important thing that happens in those 6 weeks is the assessment due date. So your assessment's due kind of at the beginning of the 7th week of what the course is going to be if it's a 6-week course. You can, as we were saying, everything can be done asynchronously. We sort of recommend that you take things week by week and you're progressing week by week and you're submitting milestones on time or within the recommendations. But we understand that not every activity or not every milestone is going to be met not everything's always going to go to plan, and you can always do these things asynchronously. So the one that doesn't move is the assessment due date at the end of it, but all the things within that are much more adjustable for
right. Awesome. Yeah, and it's kind of sort of support that, they're sort of very much designed around, the knowledge that people studying have many other commitments. So the flexibility to, tune into the webinar each week, that live webinar. That was another question. There's a live webinar typically every week, but if you can't make it, you get the recording and you can follow up on Slack with questions as well. So it's asynchronous with synchronous moments is some ways we sort of describe it as, but that there is a start date, there is a assessment due date, and they're the key dates, so that is in the 6 weeks. If you need to take a break, that's kind of within your control within the 6 weeks, but you typically can't stop halfway through and then join a cohort at the next time the course runs.
That's correct. Yeah.
Great stuff. A couple more questions coming through, but we might move on and we'll come back to those. We'll certainly answer them in the chat or come back to them towards the end. But we're very, very excited because we obviously get lots and lots of learners and students, and we have lots of industry mentors and experts and wonderful people running those courses with our learners. But we also have some people that have done both. And JLV Grech is one of those people. So welcome, JLV. JLV is a people systems and analytics professional with experience in HRIS implementations and enhancement of inherited people systems. Lots of industry experience in supply chains, transportation, retail, education, and tech. Lots and lots of skills around process design, service design, data analytics, data migration, and areas around kind of analytics. And is currently developing a strategy for organizations to leverage AI and stay ahead of the curve. So like so many sort of skills that kind of connect into both, areas that we cover within the portfolio, but also additional skills around that JLV's kind of been learning through attending a couple of our courses, specifically customer experience strategy and design and the product management courses JLV studied, and is a mentor on our business analytics and visualization course. So JLV, thank you so much for joining us. Looking forward to hearing all about the student and industry mentor experience.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, and welcome everybody. I'm really excited on your learning journey, and I hope that many of you will enjoy the experience as much as I had. So I'm going to start by telling you about my experience as a student. So about 3 years ago, I decided to do something completely different to what I know. So usually I'm working around systems to do with HR and analytics, but I had a mentor who suggested, why don't you just try something different? And they suggested these 2 courses at RMIT Online. So one was the customer experience design and then product management. So I was completely out of my comfort zone, but I found the learning experience so helpful, and it really helped me identify the areas of those two disciplines that I could actually apply to my day-to-day work. And I found that the tools that we use, so there's Canvas and also Slack, were very easy to access. So I had downloaded them on my phone. So that meant that if I was on the train, I can start reading the learning materials. If I needed to ask a question, I can just jump on Slack and ask the class a question or reach out to my mentor. So having industry experts as mentors meant that I had direct connection to people who are doing what they are teaching. And one of the wonderful things was that I had mentors that worked in different organizations, and when they do run the webinar and discuss the learning materials, they could give real examples of how they would utilize that in their workplace. So again, as I said, it was just really convenient. I have 3 teenage boys and, full-time work at that stage. So I really needed to find those 2 hours every night to just study. And that can sometimes mean 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at lunch, just any way that I can absorb the material. And don't worry, there were things that I read that I was just like, this is not something that I understand. So that's when the webinars really became useful, because I noticed that a lot of the courses that I did online previously didn't have that opportunity for us to actually go in and speak to people, living people. So having that webinar and actually saying, look, I've read this 10 times and I need help with it. I need help to break it down. And the mentors are really great. But what they also try and do is encourage the students to chime in if they, did everyone have a hard time understanding this? And some people might have a better way of explaining it. So that's what I really enjoyed about the webinar. And of course, you can have the recording as well, but there's really nothing like attending it live. So I do suggest, if you can, do attend the webinars live as much as your time will allow you. The other thing that I really like was just learning with people at different levels. So there were students whose strength would correspond to my weaknesses and vice versa. And just being able to be open and discussing it, and knowing that it's a safe space to just practice using all the tools. And that's how I use the milestones and the projects. They're really great resources. At the end of the day, it's a document that you can take away. I've used some of those documents and templates for my work. So it's not even just the course ends and that's it. The things that you take away just keep going, and the benefits just keep coming. So that was my experience as a student. I really enjoyed it, and I'm still looking at doing some more courses through RMIT Online. But yeah, certainly if you have any questions, please let me know. But I'm going to wrap that up in terms of my student experience. And then I'll speak to my role as a mentor, but I'll take some questions first, if that's okay.
Great, thanks, JLB. I love the sort of the value you got from those kind of touch points with the mentor, and I'm sure you'll kind of talk about from the other side in a second. Does go back to the trying to provide a way of learning that's got that kind of richness of connections, obviously online, and those synchronous moments. One of the questions I had around the kind of, I guess, the cohorts that you studied in and your experience as a learner, not just connecting with the mentor, but whether you felt connected in some ways to the other learners, or whether you felt it was kind of you studying with the mentor, and how you kind of found that experience.
I definitely connected with a lot of the learners as well. And I actually spoke to one that completed a completely different course than me, and we were comparing, our experience, and we were just talking about how it can sometimes be really intimidating when you hear other students, answering all the questions and they seem to get it. But to me, that's a really good way to leverage their knowledge and their expertise and building that connection with them, because I think, well, they're already, let's just say I'm beginner and they're at advanced, but there's definitely a reason why they're still doing this course. They're trying, as Matt says, they're trying to fulfill a gap. And for me, it's really important for me to understand their journey as well. So what I love, one of the things that I think the mentors did at the start of the course was getting everyone to introduce themselves. Why are they doing this course? What are they trying to find in terms of their gaps? What are they trying to develop further? And that really gave everybody else a sense of, hey, everybody's here to learn something. We don't have all the answers. There's no silver bullet, but we are actually creating our own community of learners, and we are trying to share ideas with each other.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks, Shelby. One question has come in around the product management course which you studied, and I'm sure Matt might have a perspective as well to add to this. But from your perspective, how did that kind of benefit or add to, or perhaps why was that a course you chose around obviously the analytic skills and data skills you've had? How might you've used that in your job, and was it aimed at new product managers, or those with existing experience?
So it's actually a mix of students that were coming in. So some who are novice, so like myself, and some who are, I think there was actually someone who owned a consulting company, and he just wanted to understand what his consultants do with customers, and he wanted to be able to support them as well. So that's like totally unexpected, right? When we think about the types of students that would do this, but that's what I love about it. It's just open to everybody. So in terms of product management, I found that to be a really fun one to do, even though I didn't know anything about it. And, when you're talking about how many hours you dedicate, once I really hold on to something fun, it's like sometimes 20 hours for me because I just don't want to stop learning about it. But that actually, in terms of how it impacted my day-to-day work, every day I'm coming up with new initiatives, new ways to design business processes in terms of HR systems, and how can that benefit my customers, which are sometimes, most of the time, they're internals. So for me, when I'm creating, for example, a time off process, what is the minimum requirement for that process to make it viable for it to go live right now versus, what else can we have that are nice to have in the future? So to me, that product management course really helped me segment how I wanted a product to be delivered, considering my timelines, considering my budget and the resources that I have, but also, what are my return on investment? So, what are the customers getting out of it? And I find that the two courses that I did really benefited me because it linked together really, really well. So yeah, surprisingly, both helped me out with my job. And I think that's what I love about these courses. It's really how you apply it. It's really what you want to get out of it. And there's really no limit to what that looks like for everyone.
Brilliant. Thank you, Shelby. We might ask you to kind of talk about the mentor experience. A question did come in around the business and data analytics course, or the business course that you mentor on, about whether it was for a beginner or more experienced business analyst. So perhaps you'll cover that as you talk. If not, we'll come back to that question. But really keen to understand your kind of experience as industry mentor and what that brings to the, what the value you got from that, but also what the value that gives to the learners within these courses as well.
It's a really good question. So I think for me, the role of a mentor is really to facilitate the learning experience so that no matter what level the students are at, they still feel like they can learn something and feel supported. And I think sometimes being a mentor, we're always aware of that. And a course like business analytics and visualization, the students I had are all mixed. So some people have worked with data before, but they might only be using Excel and not Tableau. Some have used Tableau, but they really want to understand the storytelling side of it, which is, an added, I guess, an added skill set. And some have never seen data before. So I've had chefs, I've had beauty therapists that just realize, hey, I want to do something completely different. I want to see how it would fare in that industry. So what types of skills do I need to have? And I think, our job as mentors is to give you insights about the job. What does our day look like? And I often mentor with people who are not in HR. So they're in banking, they're in finance, they're in insurance. So having that wealth of knowledge and expertise come through as mentors is really helpful for students, because I've had students who said, I didn't know they did data analysis in HR. I didn't know that these skills would be handy in banking. I've never thought about that before. So we can talk about, the industry we're working in, our experience, how we got to where we are. I think the journey is really important for students to see. I wasn't born a people systems and insights lead. So people need to see that journey. What hurdles did we have to overcome? What were the pain points? What are the lessons that we can teach so that students don't have to go through those again? I think, that's my role as a mentor. We all have a day job. So, definitely mentoring is something that's added to our day. So we must really enjoy it to be able to do it. I know I certainly do. And I just want to share learnings. And for me, the more I share with others, the bigger the community becomes. So all of a sudden, one of my students could be the expert that I reach out to one day if I need the information. But don't forget, we're also here to challenge you. So I've had students who I know they have potential. It's just that fear or that limitation of where they don't want to get out of their comfort zone. So I've had my mentors challenge me, and I think the best I can do as a mentor is to meet you where you're at, but also to say, hey, you can push a little bit further. I know you can do this, and I'm happy to spend the time with you. I'm happy to answer questions, and discuss it with you. Let's learn together. But let's get you from A to B because I know you can push through. So I hope that's answered some of the questions. But the benefit of having, a mentor in the course, I guess that's covered most of it. But I think, again, I said there's a lot of self-paced courses that have recorded webinars. To have someone that you can speak to, ask questions, have discussions, or even have debates about. Sometimes I will say, okay, my perspective, as a mentor and in the things that I do, my day would look like this. But, I had another mentor who, her day looks completely different. But sometimes the principles are quite the same. And that's what we're trying to teach, is that those skill sets are very, very much transferable. So someone can come in as a beginner, that business analytics and visualization course, we take you through cleaning data in Excel. We take you so that you're comfortable with using that. And then it goes into Tableau. And what I found useful is that, yes, there are still a lot of organizations using Excel to analyze data, but having those skill sets to use Tableau is extremely handy because a lot of organizations are already adopting those tools. And for you to come in as a candidate and say, hey, I can definitely do what I need to do in Excel, but if you have Tableau, I can definitely do some visualizations in there. It's a great way to be able to, tell the story through data. So, definitely for those who are beginners to those who are just already experienced in analytics, it's a really good course. And I find that the video where the students have to record the storytelling portion of it, a lot of students get very, very nervous about recording. And that's one of the questions that come up a lot. So my advice is to get really comfortable, start with recording yourself on your phone, even if you're just talking for 30 seconds to a minute. And then the more you do it, the more you'll be comfortable with it. And it's just a way for you to be able to explain what you've learned and really engage with the audience, because you know what, we all have to do it. I have to present my findings to stakeholders all the time. And believe it or not, I'm actually an introvert. So we all have to stretch a little bit.
Absolutely. No, absolutely right. That's great advice. There are a couple of questions related to some sort of specific career options, and I'll probably tie that sort of back to absolutely what you touched on there, Jelby, where, a lot of these are, some of their courses are very specific to a career. We have introduction to programming courses if you want to be a programmer. A lot of the courses, especially the ones I think, Jelby, you touched on, are, in some ways transferable. They're not, we're not, in 6 weeks, we're not going to train you up to be a data scientist, but these core skills, whether it's in business analytics, whether it's in customer experience, it's understanding how do we take the skills within these disciplines or these careers and acquire them for use within my career. So we don't provide a specific service to get you a career outcome. But what we do provide is all the kind of blocks that you can put together to add to your overall profile for your career.
Yes.
So that's kind of how we look at it. I think, JLV, as you spoke about the business analytics, that kind of came out there as well. One question from around sort of the mentoring piece, if we just sort of touch on that, was around your kind of the one-on-ones and, your experience of one-on-ones. Did every student take up the one-on-one? Is it kind of, was it a load for you as a mentor to have to, deal with lots and lots of one-on-one requests? How does that work from a mentor side?
So sadly, not every student takes advantage of the one-on-one. I know as a student myself, I took advantage of the one-on-one session. So for my first course, it was all brand new to me, but I could understand a little bit better than the second one. So for that first one, I had no issues with the final project. So my one-on-one with my mentor was more about understanding the industry, how they utilize their skill sets in their workplace, what other jobs could that lead to. So that's a really good conversation to have that I found helpful, and how I can relate it back to what I do. And mentors have great insights on that. For product management, I got a little bit stuck with my final project, to be honest. And that one-on-one session was really helpful because I just needed my mentor to break down that idea, the marketing side of it. That's my weakness. So I was like, this is my weakness. I need you to break it down for me so that I can understand it. So both different ways to utilize your one-on-one session. In terms of as a mentor, I really enjoy the one-on-one sessions with students because it's really where I connect with them and I really get to know them. They get to know me as well. And I always say to my students, look, let's keep in touch even after this. I know the 15-minute. A lot of times, we go slightly over time, and I have to be aware that other students are waiting. But, my advice to all of you who are participating in this session, please take up your one-on-one session with your mentor. Take advantage of their expertise, use them as a resource. This is like personalized information. That one-on-one discussion can be really valuable. So please do that.
Brilliant. Thanks. Great advice, JLV. Thanks so much. A few more questions we'll come back to probably at the end with time, but I'm sort of very keen. Thank you so much for that amazing overview of both sides of the experience. Now we're going to hear from, very excited to introduce Amanda Vukovic from one of our many industry partners that we work with to build these courses. Amanda and both her team and Deloitte have been an incredible partner with us over the years. Amanda specifically is an experienced risk consultant within the professional services industry, really focused on areas such as environmental compliance, environmental systems, ESG, sustainability for business, all those things that are so kind of relevant in the business world at the moment. And Amanda's going to talk to in some ways, the experience and the value of the kind of connection we have with industry as we think about the courses and skills we address and how we address them. And I'm sure we'll touch on some specific areas we've collaborated on very recently as well. So Amanda, over to you.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for the introduction, Jules. So I'm a director in the climate change and sustainability team, and I might firstly talk about, I guess, Deloitte's experience from my perspective of the relationship that we've built with RMIT Online over many years now, pre-COVID times we're talking. So we've been involved in many different aspects of from building courses through to being SMEs and getting filmed on courses. So I guess the relationship really started where there was a need from us. I guess we really felt like we wanted to partner with a university that had a great brand in the marketplace, who was providing online courses and delivery methods to people like ourselves and then also like our clients. And we wanted to be involved in and be able to provide insights of what we were seeing from an industry perspective, where we felt there were skill shortages, where we could apply some of our subject matter expertise knowledge to courses and help shape them. So our initial involvement with RMIT was around workshopping with Matt and his team on the social impact course and providing frameworks and different methodologies that we use with clients to ensure that the courses are showcasing the latest approaches and methodologies and research that support the modules that get developed as part of these online asynchronous courses. That evolved to us then being filmed as part of some of the courses. So that was a really exciting experience. And Jelvi, you spoke about the uncomfortableness of being filmed, and you know, even for some of us who have been in industry for a really long time, that was quite daunting as well. And that's why I think it's so fantastic that that end assessment has that filming, because it very much is applied in the workplace. And for professional service firms, a lot of the application processes actually involve an online video before you get to meet someone. And so I think I love that advice around start with a 30-minute clip and just get familiar with filming yourself, because it's something that very much is transferable into industry. And people who come across, everyone's nervous with it, but people who can be as natural as possible is really highly valued when we do such assessments. So I'm very pleased it's part of the assessment process. So we were filmed as part of courses, various personnel from Deloitte. And then we've also worked with RMIT to co-develop courses, so to come up with new ideas of you know, what could we potentially build to support the market in various areas. So we've become very close with the RMIT Online team over the last few years. Deloitte think it's incredibly important to partner. We think it's, when we think about the skills and capabilities that are in the market and our existing teams, for example, there are always gaps. And so it's very important for us to be partnered with RMIT Online to try and bridge some of those gaps and support that capability uplift that is required. Because if I speak just from the sustainability space, for example, there is an incredible skill shortage, and it's so fantastic that RMIT has built multiple courses to upskill people who either who are in roles where they want to transition, and we spoke a little bit about that, or people who are in sustainability functions and want to build on that knowledge to stay relevant and present and up to date in the marketplace. So I think that's fantastic. And I'll comment on, I didn't want to jump in earlier, but the comment around what level of experience do you need to be for these courses? Being a part of some of those processes now, I think what's so fantastic is you can be a beginner or you can be advanced, and the courses are built in such a way that they're relevant for both of you, because there are so many external links to reading or articles or videos or insights that are built into these courses. So if you feel like you are an expert, you can skip over some of those parts. But if you're a beginner, you would read all that detail. And that's why that question's so hard to answer around how many hours per week. It's really, you know, what investment are you willing to put in, and that's what you'll get out of it. And also, who should be doing these courses? My experience has shown me that we've seen a huge range of people from, you know, beginner grads all the way through to execs who enroll into these courses to upskill themselves. And I think that's something as an industry partner that's so important, because we all want to stay relevant in our roles, and the market is changing so quickly, not just in the sustainability world. And so these types of courses are so brilliant, because you have the opportunity to upskill yourselves in a you know, a short amount of time, and then bring those skills back into your organizations. Or we have found with some of the courses we've recently been working with RMIT with, even just through LinkedIn, I had some people reach out to say, I'm in between jobs. I'd love to do this course to help me become more marketable and to help me with my job prospects. So I think that's amazing as well. You know, it helps you to stay relevant and build your own brand and eminence within your firms or your organizations, but then can also help you with that shift into a new role. We have had learners at Deloitte do some of the future skills courses, and we think that is so valuable for our people, because they bring those skills back and share with others. And that's why I think that time frame, that the 6 weeks, is so critical, because it's quite a vast uplift in a really short amount of time. So I think I've touched on a few things, but I think helping to shape the learners of the future, the people who we hire in the future, is why we're so engaged with RMIT, because we want to ensure that, you know, Deloitte, they say we love to hire the best of the best. That's not my words. So, you know, by working with RMIT, we can help shape those people in the market to bring them back into our organization. And then I think it really helps you with implementation back in your organization. So Jules, you commented on it, you know, you're not going to be an expert in 6 weeks, but it's going to give you the basics and also help with that how-to, which is those really important questions across courses where you can then go and test it and trial it back in your organization, and you understand the methodologies. And that's the really critical stuff that we work with on the day-to-day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Amanda. That was amazing insights from both an industry partner and someone who's been involved in the process as well of designing courses. So lots of great insights as well into the experience. One question I have from a Deloitte perspective, he's kind of touched on it, but kind of obviously you partner with RMIT Online in particular, and others as well, other universities as well. That kind of relationship into kind of RMIT Online and why is that kind of a choice of Deloitte to partner with RMIT Online?
Yeah, we're very strategic with all of the decisions that we make, and so we absolutely did our due diligence around what universities in the market would we want our brand attached to, would we want to support on their endeavors around upskilling the marketplace. And it's not questionable that RMIT Online has such an incredible presence both in Australia but then also globally. And I think there was a question around, if you're overseas, can you do these courses? And that's the beauty of these asynchronous courses. You can take a holiday for 2 weeks in the 6 weeks and still do the course. Well, we don't encourage working on holidays, but and come back, so that it gives you that flexibility to build it into your lifestyle. And I love how Jelby spoke about being a parent and having those outside responsibilities, because that's what's so brilliant around these courses, which is why you can really build it into your everyday activities. But the reason we partnered with RMIT is because we thought they were a leader in the market globally. They had a great brand, they had a great courses, fantastic feedback, and we wanted our brand attached to them. So that's why Deloitte chose to work with RMIT Online.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Amanda. Three brilliant speakers across the topics. We've got a few questions we might kind of go through, and I'll kind of invite anyone to jump in and answer them as we go. And I might answer a couple as well as we go. Is there a live recording? Are there live or recorded sessions during the course? I think sort of touched on that. There's typically a weekly webinar that is live, and that's as JLB said, there's real value in attending that live. But we also recognise people do have kids, jobs, other things going on holidays, so they're recorded and you can access those recordings another time. Maybe Matt or JLV, I might ask you, is there a limit to how many sessions you can have one-on-one with your mentor during the course?
Yeah, it's a good question. We have a sort of a single one-to-one session is the expectation for all the learners in each of the Future Skills courses. And then beyond that, if there's sort of more feedback required, the feedback will come via milestones and also via your project submission. And you'll also be able to access the mentors for asynchronous discussion via Slack. So like you can use the instant messaging platform to reach out to your mentor if you've got specific questions, and they can respond via Slack. So one-to-one session, and then there's the weekly webinars, the Slack, and also you receive written feedback when you're completing milestones in your project submission.
Great stuff. Thanks, Matt. There was a question about overseas, and obviously Amanda covered that one. There are no barriers to working overseas as far as I can think. It is online, 100% online. Obviously time zones, if you're in somewhere glamorous like Europe, might struggle to get live webinar, but you can study overseas. Is there any financial assistance for these courses, such as for the government? Matt, did you have I'm happy to add colour to that as well. Did you want to answer that one around government assistance?
It's on our list of things that we're trying to get, I would say, is probably the answer. At the moment, no, unfortunately, we don't get any support from the government. So there's no sort of HECS that's associated with the Future Skills courses. But yeah, was there more detail you wanted to add, Jules?
Oh, yeah, probably exactly that. There are some government. We have worked with the Victorian State Government over the last 2 or 3 years as part of a broader program called the Digital Jobs Program, which does allow people within Victoria to apply for into a program where there's actually learning and internships. That's a separate state government led program whereby the government sponsors you to do 2 courses through us and other providers, and then find you an internship into a job. That program kind of came to an end at the end of last year, but we believe it's going to restart in July. So have a look out for that. There were obviously entry criteria there, but there's no specific funding for these types of courses at this time. through, for those that might have heard in the press around big review of the higher education sector and what's something called the Accord. There's talk of funding coming for these types of courses, but nothing at the moment, just to be clear. Can these courses be credited into a degree? Matt, you touched on that. Just want to give a quick update on that one.
Yeah, so you'll be able to sort of find on the website some of the specific combinations, but the way it works is there are different future skills courses when combined with each other. So 2 future skills courses will give you credit into a graduate certificate or a master's degree that you can access from RMIT Online. Important to note with that it is going to be specific courses give you specific credit into some of those future study opportunities. But yes, we do enable people who've completed those future skills courses to then get credit into further study.
Great stuff, Matt. And I'm still going to be Matt now, I reckon. One more question. There were courses that started yesterday. Can you still enroll into those courses?
Definitely. Yes. Great question. I think there was sort of 10 to 12 courses that started yesterday. The first webinars for those sorts of things typically happen towards the end of the week. So as long as you enroll sort of today, tomorrow, you'll still be able to get into the course. You'll still be able to meet your mentor. You'll still be able to join in and you won't miss too much. So yes, do recommend people, if they're keen, then get involved in the June intake.
Yeah. I think we typically allow people to join up to the Wednesday, end of the Wednesday.
Yep.
And the courses start on a Monday. So do look at those ones. If anyone else saw any questions in the chat, I think that was everything that I've seen. I think we'll pause there unless I see any sort of final questions coming through. Thank you very much to all of our speakers. If you would like any more information on any of the courses or there's questions we haven't answered, obviously, you can go to our website, online.rmit.edu.au, and that will send you a link. There's a little contact us link at the top, which is either a phone number or you can fill out a form. You can also email your questions to sales@rmitonline.edu.au, and we'll send through information after this session with those contact points. And we've got a team here who will help answer any questions that you may have about suitability, what's in the courses. Obviously, individual courses have different components. The final thing I would say, there was another question around sort of support that you may get through the course. We do have a student success team that support you through that course for things like, access issues, accessibility. We do have a big focus on accessibility for different types of learners from different areas. And so we do have a lot of support there as well outside of the kind of learning and teaching experience with mentors. So you should get all the support you need. So thank you very much indeed. We'll wrap up there. I think we're about 7 minutes back in your day. So enjoy and thank you for joining us. And thank you, JLV, Matt, and Amanda. Have a great day.